Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated. And welcome back to Nerds Amalgamated. This week we're talking about the pushback against Japanese censorship in games, humans in heat, and we worded it that way deliberately.
Yep, I love that. I love that wording.
I've noticed. And Jenna Ortega's view on women-led franchises. So first up, we've got the an article about Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, speaking about game censorship in Japan. Now, you're a big Resident Evil fan, aren't you, DJ?
Yes. Especially the big, gigantic vampire lady, yes.
Oh, I forgot about that. I never should have brought this up.
Hey, you brought this upon yourself. I mean, who could say no to the big, gigantic vampire lady? I gotta admit though, Resident Evil, besides having that big, gigantic vampire lady, they've got some great moments in that with that franchise with their choices of waifus and all.
You're making this weird.
But that's Japanese games for you, man. What can I say?
Anyway, Shinji Mikami is not happy about it. The Japanese Bureau of Classification equivalent, the CERO, Computer Entertainment Rating Organization, which is odd that that's in English and it's a Japanese organization.
Oh, yeah.
So specifically for console games in Japan, all games must get a rating from CERO.
Yeah.
And any game that features 18 plus content has to meet their particular standards to be allowed to be released.
Yeah.
This apparently doesn't apply to PC games. Because, PC games aren't covered by CERO. But then we're looking at developing two separate versions of a game for PC and consoles. And considering consoles are more like PCs these days, you know, it's a lot of duplicated effort.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, can you imagine just making one game purely for console and one game purely for PC? It's insane. I mean, although that being said, though, I get the idea in terms of making two versions. In terms of, remember the infamous Batman game and how they put the same game on the PC port and how it was an absolute mess?
Yeah, Arkham Knight, was it?
Yeah.
The PC release was really buggy.
Yeah. So on the one hand, I kind of agree. Like, it's insane to make two versions of it. But on the other hand, it kind of makes sense in terms of, the PC port making one game into all platforms is a bad idea as well. It could be Arkham Knight, or it was an Arkham game. I know for a fact.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Arkham Knight.
Okay. Yep. So it's Arkham City as well, and okay. But yeah, I get where he's coming from in terms of you have to make two variations of the same game, but then that being said, it's, you know, making one port for one game for all ports, it's also it's a mess in itself.
Yeah, it definitely adds complication to release your game on multiple platforms, especially if you're going to have to censor it on particular platforms because of the way the rating system works.
Yeah, I've posted up the rating systems on the show notes, but they've got some interesting system there.
So it's not just Shinji Mikami who is unhappy with it. Mm-hmm. It's also Goichi Suda, aka Suda51.
Yeah.
And Shinji says that he thinks it's odd that the games are restricted because of rules made by people who don't play games. You know what this reminds me of?
Oh, please do tell. I would love to hear this one.
The Australian Bureau of Classification up until about 10 years ago when we got the R18 rating.
I knew you were gonna say that. Oh, the hilarity of that whole of that saga was so bad. Ah, I'm still surprised after this many years, our censorship bureau is still is still a joke at the even after that entire thing.
No, it's actually improved a lot.
Oh,
Ever since we got the R18 rating in Australia, they've actually been able to release games uncut. And there aren't a lot of games that take advantage of the R18 rating
yeah,
because you are by nature limiting your audience.
yeah.
But it is a lot better than it was 10 years ago before we had the R18 rating, when the Bureau of Classification literally was made up of people who don't play video games.
But then who heads up the members now? Do they still are they full of people playing video games now, or is it still the same old? Yeah, we're just a bunch of tired old bureaucrats that we don't even play games and stuff.
No, there's a lot of younger people on it now.
Oh, it's good to hear. Yeah, I've seen some of the members here. That okay. Yeah, I can agree with you on that one. Yeah. Although some of their bios are interesting. I like one's he's an active life member of his local soccer community and manages two of his children's soccer teams. And also involved in school community. Stephen also is Stephen Walker. Stephen lived and worked locally and abroad and currently resides in Sydney with his wife and three children aged between 7 and 13. Okay, why do I need to know about this?
It humanizes them. It gives you a reason to think, hey, this guy understands me.
Yeah, like here's the other one. This is the acting director. Mr. Sharp is married with two children and has a cat named Rufus. Do I want to know?
Yeah, fair enough. Don't really need to know about the cat.
And then they continue on like he's an active member of the community. Volunteers under the under 10 soccer coach, and when time permits, he enjoys riding his classic Vespa scooter. Great. Now what? But with what Shinji is saying in terms of it's being an odd system, like I kind of get it, but what can I do? The
Well, as an Australian who isn't a Japanese person, nothing. But the Japanese people can. The Japanese people can put pressure on CERO to change their policies and put pressure on their politicians to change the laws that CERO might have to follow.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
But they point out that the original Dead Space and the remake in Callisto Protocol were banned in Japan because they featured dismemberment.
Wait. This is that's funny though. This is the same country that has like dismemberment and all the crazy things in anime, and that's okay with that. But in a video game, oh no. Oh, think about the children, guys. Just think about the children. There's the irony in this.
Yeah.
Like you got zombies dismembering people in an anime, but that's just fine. But when it's in the computer game, nope.
We had the same thing with the R18 games rating in Australia. It's because they think games are for kids. But Stellar Blade was released uncensored with a 17 plus rating.
In Australia or
in Japan.
Okay, interesting.
And I'm just checking where the developer's from. The developer is South Korean, so it's not like special treatment for a Japanese company.
Yeah.
But even the R18 rating in Australia and the CERO Z rating, which are both 18 plus ratings, aren't entirely without censorship. So The Witcher 3 and Baldur's Gate 3 were both censored in Japan.
Oh, shit. Wait, in PC or on console?
I'm going to let you think about that because we've just discussed how the games on PC don't need to be rated by CERO.
Right, my bad. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but that's weird though. Like, that's a very interesting way of censoring stuff. Although this feels like it's hypocritical in a sense. Like it's fine in anime, but not fine in video games.
Yeah, and we had that in Australia too. We had an 18 plus category for movies
Uh huh.
and no 18 plus category for video games for a long time. I also think it's interesting to look at the things they censor and find out about the different culture in Japan.
Yeah.
Because you'll find that Americans tend to be very into violence and not so much into sexual content
Yeah.
because of the history with religion in America. Whereas other countries in like especially Europe tend to be a lot more casual about sexual content and come down harder on violence.
That's the weird part about that. I agree with you there. Like there's not it's not like consistent when it comes to when it comes to censorship with countries. It's just one country has has one side of rules, the other country has another side of rules, and another country has another section of rules. Like there's
Yeah.
no consistency.
So if you're a international game developer, you have to comply with regulations from all your different countries about what you're actually allowed to include.
I think that's one big that's the struggle when it comes to like which gaming feedback do you listen to? Like do you listen to what, like let's say for example if you were to make a game and it's multinational, like Japan wants more gore, but then this other country wants less gore. Like which one do I follow?
Well, generally, if you're a big developer, you're probably aiming for the middle of the range because if you rate it too high, you're cutting off the younger end of the market. You're also reducing your audience to people who are okay with explicit content. Whereas if you rate it too low, like if every movie came out with a G rating, then you'd be missing out on things that you can only depict through explicit content.
Are they?
Imagine recutting Alien to be a G movie.
And the Z, okay, if they make that if they make it G rating, I can totally see the xenomorph will be Barney the dinosaur. No death, everybody's hugged to death by Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah, and there's when you look at other stuff that you can do with movies.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of an example.
like a
I
violent
can't
movie.
think of any, but there are movies out there that are rated for adults and do stuff with that they couldn't possibly do under a G or PG rating. And not because they're just explicit or violent for the sake of it, but because it's a key part of the story.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I could say a good example would be like Kill Bill, for example.
Is Kill Bill really saying anything though, or is it just a action movie?
There are some bits where there's an action movie, but there are other bits where the violence is kind of necessary. But I do I get where you're coming from in terms of yes, like it's necessary in the storyline kind of thing. Okay, how about Lord of the Rings? Would that be would that be an example?
Well, those movies aren't rated that high, are they?
No, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure they are M movies, and they don't have a huge amount of violence or explicit content.
They said, I'm looking at Google right now. The Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. It's rated M, and the advice line is supernatural themes and mild level violence.
Yeah, so it's fairly like low level violence, but it's not specifically it's not violent for the sake of being violent.
Although you have to, yeah, I'm trying to think of how to put this though. Like in terms of violence for the sake of violence, there. As I said, I'm coming back to Kill Bill because that's the one movie I can think of the top of my head that's violence for the sake of violence.
Yeah, so I can't think of any movies off the top of my head that are violent but profound.
If you want to talk, if you think, I'm thinking of the old samurai movies now. like Sadoichi, for example.
Okay.
Like it's are you familiar with Sadoichi?
No, I'm not.
It's basically like the old Sadoichi. There we go. It's a blind swordsman.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah. So it's basically a blind swordsman, and he just uses blindness to just destroy everything in its path. And you're like, okay, there's some profound. There are some profound violence to it. Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, here's another one: Star Wars.
Yeah, but that's not hugely violent. That's
Yeah,
like Lord of the Rings.
yeah, yeah. Like you look at some of the old movies. There are some old Western movies. There were violence that were profound, like Clint Eastwood's as well. The Clint Eastwood movies. My favorite, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And they have that. There's that classic moment where they're just standing there, about to have that shootout, and they're all staring at each other. Which one's gonna shoot first?
Yeah, so anyway, I think the solution here is for the Japanese people to push for less restrictive classification rules. Because it does sound like, from what Shinji Mikami and Suda51 have said,
Yeah.
that their rules in Japan are inconsistent and confusing. Like, it is very confusing that PC releases on Steam aren't classified, but console games are.
Yeah. It also gives the PC developers a free. It feels like you're giving the PC game developers a free pass to do whatever they want in a sense.
Yeah, I'm sure they can't do whatever they want if they want to release on Steam, but I
That's
don't
a,
know if this applies to other stores. The source doesn't actually say.
yeah. I mean, if I recall correctly, like Steam did like a gigantic push for Japanese games to be banned or something like that. If I recall.
I don't know about that.
Hang on a second. It was either Steam or Sony. Yeah, they were banning like visual novels as well. I remember that. You know,
So, are you going to tell me anything about it, or are you just saying, there we go?
I'm just looking at the article right now. So it's one of the games. It's a R18 visual novel, and the game was banned 3 days before by Steam, 3 days before its release. And the reason given was it appears to contain sexual content, including sexual content. So the case was highlighted by Steam's strengthened rules on adult-oriented games, as well as stirring up controversy on Steam's rejection of resubmissions. So it basically talks about the reason why Steam's banned the game, but which is interesting.
Okay, that's not Steam banning all Japanese games like you said, though. Also,
Okay.
it's being banned because of very real legal issues.
Yeah.
It's not a choice Steam gets to make because it's got what appears to be an underage character, and it's presumably, since it's R18, it's presumably got nudity.
Yeah.
It falls under a category that is definitely not allowed.
Yeah. There's another one where it talks about the inconsistencies of banning visual novel bans, and yeah, which adds another layer to the whole idea of this whole censorship in gaming in Japan. Like, you not only have to deal with the trying to create a game for following the country's rules, but you also have to deal with Steam's own rules as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, those rules come down from the payment processors, as in the Visa and MasterCard, which is the big problem OnlyFans had a couple of years ago when they threatened to ban adult content on OnlyFans.
Oh yeah.
The reason for that was apparently because they were being threatened by Visa and MasterCard that they would pull support. So it's not just what you think should be allowed on Steam if you're a Steam reviewer. It's also what is legally allowed, what is not going to get you pulled from payment processors, because if you get pulled from Visa and MasterCard, well, you're not going to be making much money.
Yeah,
it's what the classification bureaus allow. Because I presume there are severe fines for companies that are releasing content that is not part of the covered under the classification bureau's allowed ratings.
yeah. Yeah, I've heard something about that. Yeah, so I'm trying to find the types of So nope. Classification, the penalty. There we go. Nope, they don't even say anything. It's wait, hang on a second. Enforcing classification laws. There we go. It's fairly offenses in relation to it would be in relation to selling, screening, and distribution. They don't really say what punishments you get. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I found it. So penalties for similar offenses differs between jurisdiction. For example, the maximum for failure to comply with a call in notice as follows. So Victoria, it's $11,945. New South Wales is $11,000 for an individual and $22,000 for a corporation. Just posted up the link here so you can have a. Mind you, this is under the Australian Law Reform Commission's reports.
Yeah, so anyway, we've been talking about this for a while, so we should move on to Humans in Heat, which a really good segue would have been from the R18 games to this. But no, DJ, you had to keep talking and ruin my segue.
Hey, my segue's better than yours.
It is not.
Oh, we can have that discussion later.
So, Humans in Heat, not what you're thinking. It's about the temperature.
Okay.
So, it's generally accepted that above a wet bulb temperature, which is a thermometer with a piece of wet cloth over it reading 35 degrees, the human body can't dispose of heat. You can't sweat and evaporate that sweat fast enough to cool yourself down, and you will overheat and eventually die.
Yeah.
But that's all theoretical. So scientists have decided to put people in climate chambers and actually test to see what point they begin to have severe issues.
Wait, okay. What is a climate chamber, first of all?
Basically a room that can be heated and cooled and have particular humidity. And they do have safety protocols, so they're not trying to kill people here. They just want to see what the bearable level is.
I tried to find. I tried to put on Google climate chamber. It comes up with a mini fridge.
Okay, well, think that, but bigger, and it gets
Okay.
hot too.
Okay.
And the reason they're doing these experiments is because of global warming. We're seeing more and longer heat waves, and they want to know at what point the heat wave becomes fatal and what we can do to mitigate it. Which reminds me of the Kim Stanley Robinson book, Ministry for the Future,
Okay.
which has a really dark first chapter set during a heat wave in Pakistan, I think. It's a heat wave in South Asia where millions of people die. The scary thing is here that they came up with the wet bulb temperature of 35 degrees through a theory about 20-something years ago, according to the article. So at air temperature 35 degrees and humidity 100%, they figure it's fatal. But at lower percent humidity and higher temperature, it's also fatal.
Okay.
So you can plot a chart at what point it becomes fatal to be outside or even inside. So that's why 35 degrees isn't that hot. People can survive being outside in temperatures well over 40 degrees.
Yeah.
But the humidity combined with the heat is what gets you.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is, the new theory that they're working on based on this study is that the deadly temperature is lower than 35 degrees wet bulb.
Oh.
It could be as low as 25.8 degrees, and getting worse the older and less healthy you are.
Did they also factor in, like, let's say for example, if you have any if you have genetic diseases or like if you have illnesses prior to that, or is it just for like any human being?
No, any human being. So this is testing to find out what the limit is for a healthy young person.
Okay, I'm looking at some of the footage for the for this experiment, and man, them staying in that room, that's an effort.
Yeah, 3 hours in a room with a wet bulb temperature of would be fatal until you get to the point where they terminate the experiment because you are literally dying. And what's even scarier is that this test is just sitting there. If you actually have to get up and do some work and move around, the fatal temperature is likely to be even lower.
Oh, okay. Wait, how much lower are we saying here, though?
They haven't tested that yet.
Okay. This would be interesting, but the question you have to ask is if this is on one side of the world, like because there could be other places in the world where this doesn't occur much. Like if I recall, like I know we live in the tropical side of our end, and we get huge humidity. But then when you go to the other side where it's not really that tropical, it'd be a totally different finding, wouldn't it?
Well, Brisbane is subtropical to begin with.
Okay.
The tropics, by definition, are anywhere in between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, which, for Australia, if I'm remembering correctly, is anywhere north of Rockhampton.
Okay.
But what do you mean by the other side?
Let's say like if you want to go to Perth or Fremantle, for example. If I recall, like their temperatures, they don't have the humidity; they have the dry heat, for example.
Yeah, so that's the dry heat is to do with the humidity, and that's what the wet bulb temperature is. Wet bulb is 100% temperature, 100% humidity.
Okay.
So, yes, in a low humidity situation, you can survive longer at a higher temperature.
The other interesting thing this shows is that I think we're seeing it like the humans evolving in a sense in terms of how the human body is going to adapt to this new change of environment.
I don't think we've had long enough to do any meaningful evolution. Sure, you can acclimatize to an environment, but that's not evolution. Evolution takes place over generations. And keep in mind, the Industrial Revolution was only about 200 years ago. So we've only really been pumping out tons of carbon into the atmosphere for 200 years. That's not that many generations to evolve and adapt.
Okay.
And it's not just us that we have to worry about, it's all of the animals.
Oh yeah.
Because ecosystem collapse is not a pretty thing.
Nope. And it will also and it has a big ripple effect. I mean, look at the livestock. Look at look at how much crops will suffer from this, and it'll be a big long chain of events.
Yeah, we're likely to see the locations of where we grow crops change because of climate change.
Yeah.
Not just from the temperature, but the changing weather patterns, the changing rainfall. And a lot of the land that will open up for agriculture isn't as good as the land that we already have.
Then you also have to ask that if that's the case, then the big question is going to be: are we ready to move to GMOs in that sense?
Well, GMOs could help mitigate the effect of climate change on our crops, but they're also not a great solution because then we end up with monocultures, and monocultures are really easy to wipe out by disease.
Yeah.
It's the same deal as what happened in Ireland during the potato blight.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They had one particular strain of potatoes which weren't resistant to the blight. So the Gross Mitchell banana, or Gross Michael, I can't remember. The banana crop used to be a particular species of banana which almost completely died out because of a banana blight. I don't remember exactly what caused it, but it nearly wiped out the Michael, however you pronounce it.
It's big. Just call it Big Mike.
Okay, nearly wiped out Big Mike.
God, these names.
And now we all eat Cavendish bananas because they're resistant, but they taste different.
I'm just looking at the part where one of the test subjects reached his limit, and damn, didn't look good for him.
No.
What was interesting how he was supposed to stay for 3 hours, but he stayed for 2.5 hours, and the effects were muscle cramps and labored breathing, and it was actually the first time.
First time for what?
First time he's not been able to complete the experiment to the full 3 hours. Sorry.
And this guy's like really healthy. He's an ultra marathon runner.
Yeah.
So if he can't handle it, I don't see how a lot of other people are going to handle it.
Yeah. As not only you interesting pointed out the fact that he's an ultra marathon runner. I feel sorry for the people that rely on the outside a lot for like especially for sports. Can you imagine sports activities with this if this keeps going at this rate?
Yeah, and people who are like, you can cancel sport, but you
Mm.
can't cancel work.
Yeah. Oh,
And there are certain politicians around the world who are like, no, we don't need laws to so that people who work outside can take breaks when it gets above a certain temperature. In fact, we're going to ban having a break when it's above a certain temperature. Like, how evil could you get?
can you imagine banning banning any sort of renovation work?
Yeah, renovation and building. We need more
Oh,
houses. Who's going to build the houses when it's wet bulb 35?
I mean, Jesus.
Jesus was a carpenter, but no, he's not going to be building the houses.
Ow. Ah. Like, can you what's even worse is going to be like? Can you imagine preparing for big events like the Olympics, for example? Yeah, like it used to be like it'll take years and years to just create a Olympic venue. Now with this, oh no, sorry guys, it's gonna take decades.
Yep.
I mean, screw every Olympic event, every Commonwealth Games event, every World Cup event. Like, screw that.
Well, just a couple of years ago, they had the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah, I remember that. Boy, that was bad.
Yeah, slave labor in a country that is not cool on looking
Human rights.
after their slaves. Yeah, it's not cool on
Yeah.
human rights.
That
You
World Cup.
shouldn't be laughing here, DJ.
I know, I know. That event in itself, that was just an absolute joke. But yeah, that was terrible, very very terrible. But how do you think this with this results? What do they say that what have they said in terms of planning ahead?
Um, well, the places that are going to have to deal with this the most are the places that don't have the resources to deal with it.
Hmm?
And we're probably going to see mass migration.
Oh damn!
Yeah, we're already seeing the rise of anti migration politicians because there's so much migration. I hate to think what it'll be like when this is going on.
I mean, I mean, I reckon we're gonna see a new generation of like new generation refugees, like in terms of climate change refugees. I used to
Yep.
remember what was it? Is it one of the Pacific islands that was that had that term.
Tuvalu, I think, is a country that is going to be underwater relatively soon.
I thought it was Kiribati, but okay.
I mean, these island countries don't have a whole lot of elevation.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a bit depressing. So
Oh
let's
no.
move along to something that might be a bit less depressing. Jenna Ortega has said something that is going to be very controversial.
Yeah, yeah. So she was doing an interview with MTV to promote the Beetlejuice movie. And so one of the hosts asked Jenna Ortega's thoughts on other potential sequels in which that she'll be interested in. And while Ortega and O'Hara found the idea funny, for an idea of Edward Scissorhands, the sequel, which the sequel would be called Edith Scissorhands. Ortega quickly added, I love that there are a lot more female leads nowadays. I think that's so special, but we should have our own. I don't like it when it's like a spin off. I don't like that. I don't want to see like Jamie Bond, you know, like I want to see another badass. And so the comment comes amid another press interview from which they were rethinking James Bond. And this was at the Venice Film Festival where Daniel Craig was asked about this. He was asked about this, and Craig, whose version of Bond was being killed off, Was asked if they meant that Bond might be identified as LGBTQ plus, which the director goes, guys, let's be adult in the room for a second.
Well, they have had various queer overtones for James Bond in the past,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
especially that scene with what's his name, Roll in Skyfall.
Oh, Raul.
Yeah, when they're on the island.
Yeah, Silva. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I was thinking Roll Julia, but no, that's Gomez Adams.
The actor's name is Raul Julia. Yeah, Gomez Adams. Yeah. I remember that one. That was funny.
Yeah, so they've definitely had some homosexual overtones in James Bond before.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing as if they played it right.
I mean, I agree with you there. The fact of having having franchises which were female led, that'd be great if they don't piggyback off other famous franchises.
Yeah, on one hand, it's like people aren't going to go see a new franchise because apparently people don't want to see new things. They just want to see remakes of old things. But on the other hand, so like they do need to gender flip some shows. On the other hand, yeah, there's so many characters that we could have who are 100% women led or 100% gay and have never been anything else. And I think it also depends on the sort of show it is. Like Doctor Who has such a long tradition of changing actors,
Yeah.
and they set up that the Doctor could be a woman years in advance. They started off with just a joke here or there, like Matt Smith's regeneration. He realizes he has long hair and he goes,
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
woman!
I remember that. That was absolute funny shit right there. I was like, I'm not a ginger. What the hell?
Yeah, the Stephen Moffat regenerations are a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I think it also comes down to whoever does the writing for it as well.
Yeah, like keeping on Doctor Who, they started with just a couple of jokes about Time Lords being women.
Yeah.
There was the Matt Smith hair thing. Then later on, they introduced the Time Lord, the Corsair, and the Doctor said that the Corsair always had a particular tattoo, even when he was a woman. And then we had other Time Lords regenerating into women or regenerating from women to male.
Yeah.
And then Missy.
Oh yeah, the master. Yeah. She was fun. She was
Yeah.
really fun. See, I don't mind. I don't mind those. Like they were fun. It's just that if you're like those characters were fun and they were written well. Like why can't we have like those types of things with leads?
Yeah, I'm so disappointed in Jodie Whittaker's series. Not because I think anything's wrong with Jodie Whittaker. I think she could have been a fantastic Doctor.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of scenes here and there, and a few things she did outside of Doctor Who. Like at the start of COVID, she dressed up in her costume and hid in a cupboard and recorded a special message to Earth.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was funny. That was absolutely funny.
And yeah, she's done things that are like she is absolutely the Doctor, but also they are few and far between compared to other Doctors because of the writing.
Yeah, but that being said, though, here's an interesting thought for you. There have been series within the franchise that did well on one hand, but didn't do well on the other hand with a female lead. Did well, like Star Trek, for example. Voyager, great series with Janeway.
I feel like that's an entirely different thing because Janeway's an original character.
Yeah,
it's not like they flipped Captain Kirk.
Yeah, but that's what Jenna like. But that's the thing that Jenna is advocating for in a sense.
Yeah,
and that was the
Are you having a stroke?
I feel like I'm having a stroke. But those types of series, like that on one hand, that went really well. But then years later, when you had Star Trek Discovery, it was really hated because the lead character was just an absolute she was written so badly. Like they turned her into like an absolute idiot. But the point being, it's a on the one hand, yeah, sure, it's great to have like a separate franchises with female leads on a separate on their own, but then you have to fine tune that writing and how the character is going to be viewed at. Like this article also was saying that there have been some popular films that offered a female Bond-like character, such as Atomic Blonde, starring Charlize Theron, Salt, starring Angelina Jolie, and Black Widow, 2021, starring Scarlett Johansson. Also, while there's not the film's character, Rebecca Ferguson was considered outstanding in the movie in Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation as Faust. So I mean, there is potential. You just have to like try and fine tune it right,
Yeah.
and not turn it into a Madam Web. Okay, Professor, you can segue it.
Nope.
God damn it!
Nope. I'm gonna make you wait awkwardly. I've lost my place. Give me a second. So, moving along to our shoutouts. On the 4th of September 1888, George Eastman registered the trademark Kodak and received a patent for his camera using roll film. The first Kodak roll film camera was a fixed focus lens with no viewfinder, using a V-shaped silhouette at the top to aim the camera. And this description, there was a rotating key to advance the film, a pull string to set the shutter, and a button to release it. Inside, there was a rotating bar to operate the shutter. When the user pushed the button to take a photograph, an inner rope was tightened and the exposure began. I'm just imagining some like Wallace and Gromit contraption going on. The camera cost $25, which I assume is in 1888 dollars. Came preloaded with a roll of 100 exposures and could be processed at the Eastman headquarters for $10.
Oh, that's pretty cheap.
Well, it's half the price of the camera, and that's in 1888 dollars, presumably.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Did you ever manage to use a Kodak camera?
I think I've used some Kodak disposables. I don't think I've ever owned a Kodak. My grandfather probably has, because he was a newspaper photographer. And a few years back, I happened to open a cupboard and find all of his old, like, brownies and...
And then do you remember the good old Polaroid cameras?
Yep.
They were fun.
They've come back, actually.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. Although the price is pretty expensive, though.
Yeah. And that's all we have for the shoutouts today. What is our messed up moment, DJ?
So, for our messed up moment, by the way, this is messed up moment number 25. Have you ever seen the movie Gravity?
No, I haven't. Is that the, what's her name? Sandra Bullock one?
Yeah. Yep. So there's a scene where a team of astronauts are on a spacewalk to service the Hubble telescope. The site gets hit by debris from destroyed satellite, which knocks Stone into space. There she spins for a terrifying amount of time with no force to stop her. Without a heroic rescue effort from her gas-propelled co-workers, she keeps tumbling until she's fried or asphyxiated. And the messed up part in this movie is how she gets out of that situation by amputating in space.
That reminds me of a Love, Death and Robots video.
Oh yeah?
It was called Helping Hand, and it involved an astronaut having to cut off their own arm and use it as mass to propel themselves through space.
Oh, yeesh. But yeah, it's very scary trying to get through that. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't...
The idea of being lost in space has always freaked me out a little.
Not to mention, like, not to mention the fact that you have to amputate your whole hand while you're floating around in space with no medical sanitation and everything.
Yeah, and our wacky movie on the 4th of September 1981, Supersonic Man premiered in Portugal. In the movie Supersonic Man, an alien is sent to Earth to defeat evil men who will destroy the galaxy with their weapons. He uses his superpowers, including flight, bulletproof skin, and the ability to turn guns into bananas to stop them.
Doesn't this remind you of any other superhero that does that?
No, I can't think of any other superhero who turns guns into bananas.
Uh-huh. Seriously?
I'm serious. Is there a superhero who turns guns into bananas? I mean, other than Supersonic Man?
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Oh, come
Yeah.
on, Professor.
When has he turned a gun into a banana? He
When
can
he's-
fly and he's bulletproof, but when has he turned a gun into a banana?
In a comic book, I'll find it. I'll find it for you.
And some trivia about this movie. The spaceship in the opening scenes is a Kit Bash Cylon Raider. Supersonic Man was played by bodybuilder and former Tarzan Jose Luis Ayesteran. His human alter ego Paul was played by Antonio Cantafora. And the script copies almost exactly a deleted scene from Superman 1978. The hero enters the villain's underground lair and passes through corridors where he is shot, frozen, and burned.
Jeez.
The localization team had some issues. The film is set in New York City, established with stock footage, but filmed in Spain with all dialogue dubbed. American soldiers used British Sten guns. Well, that's all we have for this week. Where can they find us, DJ?
Any audio platforms, including Spotify and iTunes and iHeartRadio, and Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, well, actually, it's called X, but yes.
Stop trying to make X happen. Look after yourselves, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.
Stay happy, stay nerdy. See you guys.
Here we go!